Hi, how are you? This is Stanley Chizoba Odibo. I'm currently a student of DCU Ohalos College, and one of our modules is called Building Community. That's community building. We actually have a very interesting lecturer there. So for this module, we're given an assignment to either write like 2,500 words or just to present a video, probably 20 minutes video or something like that. Okay, so I will love to address the topic today, which is building community. First of all, what is a community? Who are the communities? Okay, so community, from my own perspective, or if I would give it my own definition, community simply means a group of people who share something, who have something in common. Are you waiting? That's a group of people who have either something in common, or they might not necessarily have anything in common, but they are a group of people who share things together. Like a good example of that would be the church, the social media like the Facebook, Instagram, the YouTube. Are you with me? Or even the school, the colleges. Are you with me? So a community is a group of people, like a body of people who meet together to kind of sort of share their ideas and, are you with me, and see how they can, help one another and discuss the issues that might be bothering them and stuff, like political issues and all of that. There's a lot of advantages and disadvantages of a community. Are you with me? So now today we are here to discuss building a community. How does this community get built? I mean, how does it actually get started? Are you with me? Because when we talk about a community, it's not something that is so easy to actualize. When people talk about it, when people talk about my community, their community, and all of that, no one really talks about the work that goes behind the scenes, to build a community. No one actually talks about all the effort and all the sacrifices that one has to make to be able to build a community. Are you with me? For example, right now in the churches, right? Like the church where I belong, which is like Pentecostal church and all of that. Someone had to go and knock on doors. Are you with me? Someone had to, give out the leaflets. Someone had to pray. Are you with me? Some people will have to pray. Okay, and then after praying, you become proactive. You proactively go out there and try to, evangelize to people and try to win people over. Are you with me? So it's the same as well with the schools and even in the secular world as well, or even in the workplace and all of that. To be able to build an organization, to be able to build an effective community, there are so many things that one has to put in place. A good example of this might be Obama, for instance. Are you with me? Of course, I'm sure everyone is somehow familiar with Obama. Are you with me? So Obama himself, prior to graduating from Harvard Law School, he came out a fresh guy from the university, from the college, from one of the most prestigious colleges or university in the world. He just came out fresh off from the university. Instead of going to get a job in some top firm as a lawyer or even to practice in the field that he actually studied, he guess what he did? He went out and started organizing communities. He became a community organizer. Are you with me? Because he knew that he had a plan. He had a plan. Are you with me? He aspired to become somebody. He aspired to become a politician at some point. So for him to be able to build, build up his resume or to build up his CV, he had to go to churches. Are you with me? He became a community organizer. He had to go to churches. He had to knock on doors. He had to meet the pastors and the priests and the black folks. And are you with me? And he had to speak to them one-on-one to try to figure out what their problems were, to try to somehow figure out the areas that they might need help, or the areas that the government or the president might not be, of help to them. So he went around and started talking to them to see how he might be of help. Are you with me? So that's an example of community organization. So it comes with a lot of work. He had to pretty much go from church to church. Are you with me? He had to go and meet different pastors, attend different services. Are you with me? He even became a member in one of those churches. Are you with me? So that's how he was able to convince people and won himself some kind of created a niche for himself, pretty much. He won the hearts and minds of the people, and these were the people who ended up supporting him throughout his election days or election years. And these are the same constituent. He was able to build a very strong constituency rather, who eventually voted for him in Chicago, for him to become the not just teaching in Chicago as well, but in Illinois, the state of Illinois, for him to become like the senator there at the time. So building the community is a very, very vital thing. It's a very important thing. But there are some skills involved in building a community, which I will be getting to in the course of the conversation today. So another example would be Donald Trump. When people like before Donald Trump went to run for presidency, he knew pretty much. He knew well. I could have used the word then, but I'm not going to use that word here. He knew pretty well that that he is not like the people's person per se. Like people wouldn't really like vote for him because of his personality, because of his verbose nature and arrogance per se. That's in the minds of some people now. He knew pretty much that the news media wouldn't even like him. The news media that he calls sometimes fake news. Are you with me? So he knew all of these things. So what did he do? Are you with me? He went and met some pastors and met the church leaders, religious leaders. Are you with me? In order to somehow win the heart of the conservatives, okay? Because he knew there's a war between the Democrats and the Republicans, okay? So for him to be able to utilize religion for his own good, for his own purpose, to be able to become the president of United States, he had to go to pastors. He had to go and meet the pastors. He had to get all of them to lay hands upon him. They laid hands upon him and they said, oh yeah, this man is the Cyrus of our time. This man is, this man is going to lead us to the promised land, blah, 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 and all of those things. So he got them to, pray for him, and it was very well televised. You can trust Trump, of course. Trump is he knew all about media. Of course, he has been in the media spotlight for years, so he knew how to get all these things done. So he was able to get them to lay hands on him, and it was pretty televised, and he stood firm and condemned Islam and condemned a lot of illegal immigrants, and he ran a very successful campaign. But how did he start running this campaign? Is by organizing communities. Are you with me? Organizing the Christian communities, organizing the conservatives. He got them in numbers. He somehow instilled confidence in his constituents. Are you with me? So he did something that not many would have been able to do, and that's community organization. So there's a lot involved in this community organization, which is actually good for us, building communities and stuff, which is pretty good for us. Okay, so the first key to building a community is to identify a leader. Are you with me? Is for a leader, first of all, to identify a niche. Okay, it takes a leader to be able to identify a niche, to be able to identify a problem. Okay, and then seeking to solve that problem. Okay, so it takes a leader in community organization, in building a community. It takes a leader to first of all identify the niche in that community and how to bring everyone together. Are you with me? So it takes a leader. Now, to become a community, we must first have a leader. We must first have a leader. Okay, a leader with a vision. Are you with me? Even as the Bible says that without vision, the people perish. Okay, without vision. Without concise, precise vision, the people perish. Okay? So, to build a community, one needs a leader that is very focused, that is a visionary. Okay? And also, he or she must have plan. Okay? They must be able to have a very good plan, very detailed plan on what to do. Are you with me? On how to build this community. Okay? They must have very, very detailed plan. Okay, because failure to plan is actually a plan to fail. Are you with me? Failure to plan is plan to fail. Okay, so this leader has to have a good plan, a very solid plan and a vision. I mean, like I remember when we were doing our practicals in the college there with our lecturer. There was some kind of assignment that we were given to do in groups. Okay, I remember we were given some kind of materials to be able to create a freestanding structure. Okay, so I remember in my group I brought out a pen and a paper, and I said to my group that it's very important for us to put this plan together. Okay, but they didn't go ahead with it. But the reason why I did that was for them to know, right, that for us to be able to advance, or for us to be able to be successful in anything that we do, we must first of all have a plan. Okay, we must first of all have a plan. You understand? We must first of all count our costs. Okay, even as the Bible says that anything that one has to do, they must first of all count their costs. Jesus said so in the New Testament. Are you with me? So, for example, a country that is going to go to war against a much superior country, right? They have to have a plan, okay, with their inferior weapons on how to defeat a much superior nation. Are you with me? They must have a plan. Without plan, the people will perish. Okay. Without plans, there's no way anyone can actualize their visions. Are you with me? So another thing here that a leader must possess is resilience. Resilience. A leader must be very resilient. Okay. He or she must be very tolerant. Okay, and accommodate other people's views. Okay, because there's no way you'll be able to lead a community. There's no way you'll be able to put a community together or build a community without having a very, very tolerant leader. Okay, and this goes as well I remember when we had that assignment to do, when we were given that assignment to do in the class. Okay, I remember suggesting to my group members that we should first of all plan this out, which they didn't really take. And I also suggested that we make judicious use of our materials so that we don't end up wasting our materials. Are you with me? I remember I suggested that to them, that we should not use up all our materials. We should be able to be careful with the way. First of all, we need to plan it out, and then try not to waste the materials that we have, so that we'll be able to build something spectacular, and so that we can win. Are you with me? Which they didn't also take. And I remember as well, I made a contribution on how to lay the structures so that you can stand freely, which they also didn't take on board. And eventually we lost. With me. Eventually we didn't win. Okay. So in that kind of a situation, it's very important for everyone to accommodate other people's views and opinions. Okay. No matter how absurd that opinion might sound, with me. No matter how incredibly awful the opinion, other people's opinion might sound, it's very important for a leader to always incorporate other people's views and opinions. Okay. So a leader must be a very disciplined person. He must be very disciplined. Okay, even when insults are being hurled at him, he has to brush it off. I mean, sometimes criticism is something that actually builds a leader. Okay, some people are natural born leaders, while some other people have to learn how to become leaders in their own right. Okay, so sometimes a leader has to be very, very disciplined in everything that they do. You will always hear naysayers talking. You will always hear a lot of people criticizing you criticizing the leader for maybe their looks, or maybe the way they're dressed, or maybe the way they do their things and their method. Are you with me? But so in this kind of a situation, the leader must always be very disciplined. Okay, because if you're not a disciplined leader, you're not going to get anywhere. All right. So a leader also must lead by example. A leader must lead by example. For instance, if you can't tell the community members that, oh, we need to meet at 5 o'clock on the dot in so places, and it's 5 o'clock and you're not even there, and the people are there and they are waiting for things to happen and you're not even there. You understand? So a leader must always lead by example. If you set an example, you have to follow that example to the letter. Are you with me? A leader must always be the one to be there up front. You can't say to people. I mean, a leader cannot say to people, we need to donate some money on some things so that things can be done. And when it's time for you to donate, you can't even donate the money, and you are expecting your followers to somehow donate money. Are you with me? So a leader must always lead by example. Are you with me? So a leader must not be discriminatory. Okay, I remember I was talking to the class today, the youths that I teach on Sundays. I was talking to them about this yoke today. You know, a leader must never ever be discriminatory. Okay, he must never be a homophobic. He must never be a homophobe. He must never be homophobic. Okay, I mean, I know that in Christendom there's always this sayings about Christians hating homosexuals and all of that. But I mean, we are commanded to love one another as ourselves. Okay, it's very important for us to find out exactly. That's what I was trying to explain to my to our youth today. It's very important for us to understand why people are the way they are. Are you with me? Are you with me? So I mean, the best thing that we can do for this kind of people is to pray for them to see the light and for them to come to God. Are you with me? It's not for us to hate on them and all of that. Are you with me? So a leader must be accommodating of people. You know, he must not be discriminatory. He must be respectful of people. Are you with me? You know, another example of this situation is, you know, me as well. I'm going to use myself as an example, and even in the school, okay, because this assignment is partly about our school and stuff and the world in general. Okay, so I'm going to use this example as well. You know, I do go to late for lectures. Sometimes I'll be an hour late for lecture, and I remember that whenever I come into the class, I see the disappointment in the eyes of the students and sometimes the lecturers. But the lecturers not so much, but in the students, they're like, oh, he's late again. Are you with me? So on one occasion, I remember I was late for the class, and this lady was just joking with me in a joking manner. Like she came to me and then she was like, oh, you're late again, Stanley. I was like, oh yeah, I'm late. Do you know why I'm late? Okay, I'm late because I worked till 6 p.m. I was trying to explain to the lady. I was just explaining to the lady. I'm always late because I work till 6 p.m. and I work in NACE, right? So immediately after my work, I go straight to the college, and it takes about an hour to drive to the college from NACE because of the traffic. You understand, the traffic congestion in M50 every Thursday. You know, for that reason, I sometimes arrive 1 hour late. So when I explained this to her, she was like, "Wow, you're so dedicated." You understand? It all made sense to her then why I'm coming late. You know, that's why it's very important for us to first of all find out why people are doing things in a certain way, as opposed to just judging them or as opposed to somehow writing them off or saying that they are doing it on purpose. It's for us to, the most important thing for us to do, or a better thing rather for us to do, is for us to speak to them, find out why they're acting this way, why they're acting in a certain manner. Are you with me? So a leader must always be tolerant. A leader must always not be discriminatory, okay? He must accommodate other people's suggestions. Like I said earlier, a leader must always accommodate other people's suggestions, because the reason we're here is for us to learn. We're here to learn. No one can ever claim to have attained all the knowledge that there is to have attained. Are you with me? So we're all here to learn. Anybody, every person out there can give you an advice that might be beneficial. That's why leaders should always accommodate other people's suggestions, okay? So in conclusion, community building is very essential. I've already spoken about Obama and Trump and a couple of things. Are you with me? So from all these successful leaders, we can see and we can deduce that building a community is very, very important. It is very beneficial to us, very beneficial to mankind. Are you with me? Without it, there's no way we'll be able to be successful in a very globalized world, okay? In a world that is rapidly growing in terms of infrastructures and globalization and all of that. Without having a very good sense of community or community building, there's no way we'll be able to thrive in this in this century, in this 21st century, okay, of innovation and globalization and all of that. You know, it's through community organization and community building that we can learn from one another. It's through this that we can actually enhance the knowledge that we have. We'll be able to invent and organize things that would help everyone to be more successful in life. And as a result, happier people, happier in everything, both in your service to God, in your service to mankind, in your service to your nation at a large. So, although when you look at the nations, right, you might say, oh, our nation is big, but our nation is successful, but the success of a nation comes from a community, okay? Comes from a little group, from little groups. These little groups, when they're successful, their nation will eventually become successful. And when their nation is successful, their world will also become successful. That's all I have to say today regarding building of the community. Remain blessed, and thank you for listening.